The truth about angels and their role in your life, the beginning. There are moments in life when we feel as though we are standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure of whether to jump or turn back. These are the times when we need guidance, when we seek help from something beyond ourselves. It's in these moments that many of us look for answers in places we might not fully understand. We start wondering if angels, beings often associated with divine intervention, could be real, or if they are simply figments of our imagination, created to comfort us when we feel most alone. But what if angels were more than just an abstract concept or a religious symbol? What if they weren't just messengers of a higher power, but rather present in our lives in more tangible ways than we realize? This story begins with a simple question. Are angels just a figment of our collective imagination? Or are they a real force, silently shaping our lives and guiding us towards something greater? I had always been skeptical about the idea of angels. Raised in a practical, grounded household, I never thought much about the concept of supernatural beings. But as I started my journey into adulthood, a journey marked by the uncertainties of building a career, pursuing personal growth, and navigating relationships, I began to wonder if there was more to the world than what we see with our eyes. Maybe there were forces at work, unseen but powerful, helping us along the way. It was during a particularly tough period in my life, a time when I felt overwhelmed with the pressures of starting a business and the weight of personal challenges, that I encountered what I can only describe as a moment of divine intervention. It wasn't something as dramatic as a winged figure appearing out of nowhere, but rather a series of small, seemingly random events that lined up perfectly, offering me a solution when I felt stuck. Looking back, I couldn't help but wonder, was this just a series of coincidences? Or was there something more profound at play? This is the truth about angels. I realized, they don't always come in the form we expect. They don't always have wings or halos. Sometimes, they come in the form of a helping hand, a kind word, or an unexpected opportunity. And often, they appear when we need them the most. In this story, I'll take you on a journey to explore what angels really mean to us. Are they just metaphors, or are they a guiding force present in our everyday lives? Through my own experiences and the stories of others, I'll share how angels, both the literal and figurative, can play a role in shaping our lives, guiding us through tough times, and helping us reach our fullest potential. And more importantly, I'll show you how to recognize the angels that are already present in your life, waiting for you to see them. It all started on a cold autumn morning, a time when everything seemed to be falling apart. I had spent months, maybe even years, working towards the dream of building my own business, but nothing seemed to be working. My dreams, my goals, my plans, everything felt like they were slipping through my fingers. I remember sitting at my desk, staring at a computer screen filled with spreadsheets, business strategies, and to-do lists that seemed to grow by the day. The weight of the decisions I had to make felt suffocating. In that moment, I couldn't help but wonder, what am I missing? It was during this dark period that I first began to think about the concept of angels, not in the traditional sense, with wings and halos, but as guides or forces that could help us navigate the challenging journey of life. I had heard people talk about angelic guidance before, but I had always dismissed it as vague or abstract. Now, however, as I sat in the silence of my office, feeling utterly alone and overwhelmed, I couldn't help but wonder if there was something I wasn't seeing. Could there be a force that was silently guiding me, just waiting for me to open my eyes to it? At first, I dismissed the idea as wishful thinking, a way to explain the unexplained. But as I moved forward in my journey, strange things started to happen, small moments that felt too perfectly timed to be coincidental. I would meet the right person at just the right moment, Someone who would offer advice or an opportunity that felt almost as though it had been orchestrated by some unseen hand. A chance encounter would lead to a breakthrough in my business, or a random conversation would provide me with the clarity I needed to make a difficult decision. These moments felt magical, almost as if I was being nudged in the right direction. One of the most pivotal moments occurred during a particularly tough period when I was considering giving up. I had just lost a major client, someone who had been an essential part of my business, and I was feeling completely defeated. I had invested so much time, energy, and emotion into the project, and now, in the blink of an eye, it was gone. I felt betrayed, angry, and completely uncertain about the future of my business. The weight of failure pressed down on me, and I was seriously contemplating walking away from everything. But on the day that I had decided to quit, something unexpected happened. I received a phone call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. It was a former colleague from a previous job, someone I had lost touch with after we both moved on to different paths. We exchanged pleasantries, catching up on life and work. Then, out of nowhere, she mentioned a business opportunity that she thought might be a good fit for me. It wasn't anything big or life-changing, but it was enough to spark a glimmer of hope. At that moment, it felt as though the universe had just provided me with the exact solution I needed. I wasn't sure if it was a sign from something higher or just a coincidence. But the timing of that phone call felt too perfect to ignore. This encounter led to a series of other fortunate events, small opportunities, helpful advice, and unexpected resources that gave me the confidence to keep going. Looking back now, I realize that this was one of the first times I had experienced what could only be described as angelic guidance. It wasn't a dramatic, supernatural experience, but it was enough to make me believe that something greater was at work in my life. The timing of the call, the person who reached out, and the opportunity that emerged, it all felt like a series of carefully orchestrated events that led me in the right direction. As I continued on my journey, I began to notice these angelic moments more frequently. I would receive messages of encouragement at just the right time. Whether from a mentor, a friend, or even a stranger, I would find myself in the right place at the right moment. And doors would open when I least expected them. It wasn't always easy to recognize these moments as signs from angels. But with each encounter, I began to trust more in the idea that something or someone was guiding me. It felt as though the universe was providing subtle nudges, pushing me forward when I needed it the most. But as the journey continued, I faced even bigger challenges. Running a business is never a straightforward path. There are always obstacles, setbacks, and moments of doubt. There were times when I felt completely lost, unsure of what to do next, and overwhelmed by the constant pressure. But each time I found myself at a crossroads, I noticed that the right people would come into my life, the right opportunities would present themselves, and the right answers would appear. These moments often seemed to appear out of nowhere, as if they were guided by an unseen hand. And each time, I began to believe a little more in the idea that angels, whether literal or figurative, were playing a role in my life. One of the most significant experiences occurred when I was faced with a major decision. My business was growing, but so were the challenges. I was being offered a partnership with another company, and while the opportunity was promising, I had reservations. It was a huge risk, one that could either propel my business to the next level or destroy everything I had worked so hard for. I wasn't sure if I was ready to make such a big commitment, and the pressure was immense. In the midst of my confusion, I received a message from an old friend, a friend who had always been there for me during tough times. We hadn't talked in months, but on this particular day, I received a text from her saying, "I know things are tough, but I believe in you. You've got this." It was such a simple message, but it was exactly what I needed to hear. At that moment, I felt a wave of calm wash over me. I realized that I wasn't alone in this journey, and that my angels, my friends, mentors, and the people around me were helping me find my way. As I continued to reflect on these moments of guidance, I realized something important. Angels don't always show up in grand, dramatic ways. Sometimes, they appear as whispers in the wind or as quiet voices in our hearts. They may come as a friendly word of encouragement, a chance encounter, or a sudden insight that helps us make a decision. And though they may not always be visible, their presence is felt in the moments that matter most. As time went on, I started to recognize the subtle yet powerful role that these angels were playing in my life. They weren't the traditional, winged beings I had once imagined. No, these angels came in all forms. Some were in the shape of friends, mentors, or even strangers who seemed to appear at the exact right time. Some were in the form of opportunities, a twist of fate that seemed too good to be true. And others were the quiet nudges that came in moments of deep introspection. And then there were the times when I couldn't shake the feeling that everything around me was aligning in a way that was impossible to explain. The dots were connecting in ways that made no sense at first. But as I moved forward, they became clearer and clearer. I had learned to pay attention to these seemingly random occurrences. At first, they had felt like mere coincidences. But after a while, I began to notice patterns that spoke to something deeper, something beyond my understanding. And so, I began to believe in angels, not just as beings of the divine but as forces that guided me through the labyrinth of life. I think the moment when I truly understood the role angels were playing in my life happened during a particularly difficult decision-making process. I had reached a crossroads in my business. An opportunity had come up that seemed too good to pass up. A large corporation was interested in partnering with my startup, and it could provide a significant boost to my company. But there was a catch. The deal came with strings attached. There would be compromises, and the core values that had guided my company from the very beginning would have to be adjusted. I found myself stuck between two worlds. On one hand, this partnership represented an incredible growth opportunity, a chance to take my business to the next level. But on the other hand, the idea of compromising my principles felt like betraying everything I had worked so hard to build. I needed clarity. I needed guidance. It was during this time that a conversation with an old mentor stood out in my mind. This mentor, a woman I had worked with years ago when I was just starting out, had always been a guiding light for me. She had taught me not just the technical aspects of business but the importance of maintaining my integrity and sticking to my values. I had not spoken to her in months, but one day, as I was mulling over my dilemma, I received a message from her. It was a simple text: follow your heart. The right opportunities will never require you to sacrifice who you are. It wasn't the advice I had expected, but it was exactly what I needed to hear. The message was like a compass that directed me back to my true north. That one simple statement reminded me of why I had started my business in the first place: to create something that reflected my values and passions. It reminded me that no deal, no matter how lucrative, was worth compromising my soul. It was as though my mentor, through that brief message, had embodied the role of an angel in my life. Her words, sent at just the right moment, guided me through a difficult decision, helping me stay true to myself. I realized that angels, in many ways, don't always have to be visible or even spiritual in nature. Sometimes, they appear in the form of a word of wisdom from someone who has been where you are and understands the journey. I soon turned down the partnership, and though it was a difficult decision, I never regretted it. Not long after, another opportunity arose, one that was more aligned with my values and vision for the company. It wasn't as big or as flashy, but it felt right. the more I looked back, the more I realized how the decision I had made had been guided by something more powerful than my own will. It was as if the universe had conspired to push me in the right direction. And I had learned to trust that force, to trust the angels that had been quietly guiding me along the way. As my business continued to grow, I began to reflect on the nature of angels and their role in our lives. I started to realize that angels aren't just external forces, they're often reflections of our own inner wisdom. They guide us, not by telling us what to do, but by helping us see the path we need to take. They encourage us to trust ourselves, to listen to that inner voice that sometimes gets drowned out by the noise of the world. And often, they arrive in moments of stillness, when we are open to receiving their guidance. I started to see these angels everywhere, in the people who showed up unexpectedly, in the opportunities that appeared when I least expected them, and even in the challenges that forced me to grow. These moments were teaching me something important, that everything in life, even the struggles and setbacks, had a purpose. Sometimes, the angels in our lives appear not to rescue us from difficulty, but to help us learn and grow from it. The hardships were not obstacles, but stepping stones that led me to greater self-awareness and deeper connections with others. There was one experience that particularly stood out in this realization. I had been struggling with a personal relationship at the time, one that had been very important to me but was slowly fading away. I had tried to make it work, but there were differences that seemed irreconcilable. As the relationship reached its breaking point, I felt a profound sense of loss. I didn't know what to do, and I was unsure of how to move forward. I kept asking myself, why is this happening? What am I supposed to learn from this? It was during this difficult period that I received a message from a close friend. It wasn't anything extraordinary, just a simple check-in. How are you doing? I've been thinking about you. But that message, at that precise moment, was exactly what I needed. It reminded me that I wasn't alone, that I had people who cared about me, and that I had the strength to get through this. It wasn't a dramatic intervention, but it was a reminder that sometimes, the angels in our lives come in the form of the people who simply check in on us when we need it most. They show up in ways we might not even recognize until we look back and realize how much they helped us heal. Looking back, I can now see that the angels in my life have always been there, guiding me in ways I couldn't have understood at the time. Whether it was through a mentor's advice, a random encounter with someone who offered a new perspective, or a simple text message from a friend, these angels have been there all along, helping me navigate the challenges and uncertainties of life. But what's more profound is that these angels have taught me something deeper, that I too have the ability to be an angel for others. By showing up in moments of need, by offering support and encouragement, I can help guide others through their own journeys. I now see that we all have the potential to be angels in each other's lives, offering wisdom, love, and support when it's needed most. And in doing so, we create a network of support, a web of angels, that can help guide us all through the ups and downs of life. As I reflect on these experiences, I realize that the role of angels isn't just about receiving guidance. It's also about recognizing the opportunities to be a guide for others. We are all interconnected, and the angels in our lives are often the ones who help us see this truth. As I reached the end of this chapter in my life, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey I had been through. What began as a skeptical search for answers had transformed into a deeper understanding of not only the concept of angels but also the intricate ways in which life itself works. The experiences I had encountered, both the hardships and the moments of unexpected grace, had all led me to one important realization. Angels are not just divine beings who intervene in the most dramatic of ways. They are subtle forces, present in our lives in ways we may not even recognize at first. Angels, I now believe, are not only external forces, but they are also reflections of our inner strength and wisdom. They exist in the form of intuition, the quiet nudge that comes when we're about to make a decision, or the comforting presence of a friend when we feel isolated. They show up in the small, everyday moments that help guide us through life's most challenging and uncertain paths. It's not always about receiving a miraculous sign. It's often about finding the courage to listen to those subtle whispers that come from deep within, or in the guidance offered by the people around us. One of the greatest lessons I have learned is that we are never truly alone. No matter how isolating our struggles may seem, there are always forces at work, helping us along the way. Sometimes, these forces are invisible, but they are real, and sometimes, they appear in ways we least expect. Through the kindness of strangers, the wisdom of mentors, or the support of loved ones, it is easy to forget that we are part of a larger, interconnected whole, where every action, every word, and every decision has the potential to touch someone else in ways we cannot even comprehend. Reflecting on these experiences has also led me to understand that angels are not just meant to guide us, they are also there to teach us. Through our struggles, we learn important lessons about ourselves, about the world, and about what truly matters. The tough times I went through in building my business, the doubts, the fears, and the moments when I felt like giving up, were all part of a larger process of growth. Every setback was a lesson. Every moment of uncertainty was a nudge from the angels urging me to dig deeper, to trust in my abilities, and to keep moving forward. What I have come to realize is that the role of angels is not always to take away our pain or remove the obstacles in our lives. Rather, their role is to help us find the strength within ourselves to overcome those obstacles. They don't offer quick fixes or easy answers. They teach us how to persevere, how to trust in ourselves, and how to see the lessons hidden within life's challenges. It's in these moments of struggle that we grow the most. And often, it is the angels who help us tap into that growth. As I look back on the times when I felt lost or overwhelmed, I can now see how the presence of these angels, whether they were people, moments, or even my own inner voice, helped me find my way. There were times when I couldn't see the path forward, but it was during these moments that the most profound guidance appeared, in forms I never could have predicted. Whether it was a message from a friend that arrived at just the right moment or a feeling of calm that settled over me when I needed it most. I now understand that these were not coincidences, they were signs. Signs that I was being guided, even when I couldn't see the way ahead. And this is what I want you to take away from this story. You are never truly alone on your journey. No matter how difficult or uncertain life may seem, there are always angels around you, waiting for you to recognize them. They are there in the support of your loved ones, in the advice of those who have walked the path before you, and in the moments of clarity that come when you least expect them. Angels are not always the dramatic, supernatural beings we imagine. They are often the quiet whispers, the gentle nudges, the people who care for you, and the strength you carry within yourself. As you move forward in your life, I encourage you to look for these angels. Recognize them when they appear, whether in the form of a kind word from a stranger or an unexpected opportunity that opens a new door. Trust in their presence and in the knowledge that you are never alone, even in your darkest moments. And remember, you too have the potential to be an angel in someone else's life. By offering support, encouragement, and love to others, you become a part of that greater network of guidance that can help others find their way. In the end, the truth about angels is simple. They are always with us, guiding us, teaching us, and reminding us of our own strength. They show up when we need them the most. And often, they are the ones who help us see that the path forward was never as uncertain as it seemed. We are all connected, and the angels in our lives are a reminder of the divine energy that flows through each of us. helping us grow, learn, and become the best version of ourselves. As you reflect on your own life, I hope you can begin to see the angels that have always been there, guiding you, supporting you, and helping you grow into the person you are meant to be. Trust in their presence, and trust in yourself. The angels are here, and they are always with you.